A desperate dog whimpered at the shelter's entrance, but she wouldn't go in. The volunteers were confused until they realized she was trying to lead them somewhere. What they found changed everything. Before we dive into today's story, tell me where you're watching from. Grab a coffee or get cozy on the couch, and please don't forget to support us. Just hit the like button, and I'll know you enjoy this kind of story. Ready? Let's begin. It was a cold Tuesday morning when the first staff members arrived at the local animal shelter. The sun was still struggling to break through the grey clouds, and the air carried that distinct scent of rain that had fallen overnight. As usual, Joanna, the receptionist, opened the gates at 7 in the morning, expecting to find the yard empty, as always. But something was different. Near the main entrance, a medium-sized dog with rather dirty brown and white fur paced back and forth in a state of extreme agitation. Her brown eyes were filled with an anguish that touched anyone who observed her. She barked intermittently, as if trying to communicate something urgent, something that went far beyond a simple request for food or shelter. "How strange," Joanna murmured, approaching slowly. "How did you get here, little one?" The dog stopped immediately upon seeing her approach, but instead of running towards her, as abandoned animals usually did, in search of affection and protection, she took a few steps back, maintaining a safe distance. Her barks became more insistent, almost desperate, as if she were trying to explain something of extreme importance. Joanna observed the peculiar behavior with growing concern. In her 15 years working at the shelter, she had seen hundreds of abandoned animals, each with their own story of suffering and hope. But she had never witnessed such specific behavior. The dog showed no typical signs of extreme hunger or serious injuries. She seemed to have a mission. When Joanna tried to approach again, offering her hand in a friendly gesture, the dog retreated a few more steps, barked twice more sharply, and stared fixedly at the street, as if indicating a specific direction. Then she turned her gaze back to Joanna, wagged her tail rapidly for a few seconds, and repeated the same pattern. Look at the street, bark, turn her gaze back to the staff member. "You're trying to show me something, aren't you?" Joanna asked softly, as if talking to an old friend. The dog's reaction was immediate. She barked once, more softly, and took a few steps towards the gate, stopping immediately afterwards to check if she was being followed. Her eyes gleamed with surprising intelligence. It was as if she knew exactly what she needed to do and was just waiting for the humans to understand her urgency. Just then, Sarah arrived for her volunteer shift. As a retired veterinarian, she dedicated 3 mornings a week to the shelter, offering her knowledge and experience to care for the most needy animals. Spotting the unusual scene, she quickly parked and approached with the typical care of someone who deeply understood animal behavior. "What do we have here?" she asked, carefully observing the dog's posture. "She appeared this morning," Joanna explained, "but there's something different about her. It seems like she wants to lead us somewhere." Sarah slowly crouched, maintaining a respectful distance. Her years of experience had taught her to read the subtleties of animal body language. The dog wasn't just abandoned, she was on a mission. Her ears were alert, her breathing was rapid but controlled, and her movements indicated urgency without showing aggression. "She's not here for herself," Sarah concluded, slowly standing up. "There's something more." The dog, as if she had finally found someone who understood her message, barked once more hopefully and began to walk towards the street, stopping every few feet to make sure she was being followed. Her paws left small prints in the earth, still damp from the night's rain, creating a trail that seemed to lead to something that remained a mystery. Sarah and Joanna exchanged a look of understanding. Both knew they were facing something special, something that went beyond the routine cases at the shelter. The veterinarian grabbed her bag and a leash from her car. while Joanna quickly locked the main gate, leaving a note for the other staff explaining they would return shortly. "Let's see what you have to show us," Sarah said softly, addressing the dog. The animal seemed to understand perfectly. She began to walk with a determined but unhurried pace, constantly checking if her two human companions were following her. Her paws touched the asphalt with an impressive determination. Each step seemed calculated, as if she knew exactly the way and the importance of her mission. They walked for about 10 minutes through quiet suburban streets. The dog guided them with impressive precision, turning at specific corners without hesitation, as if she had walked that path many times before. Her breathing began to quicken, not from physical exertion, but from growing anxiety as they neared their destination. "Look how she knows exactly where she's going," Joanna observed, impressed by the animal's determination. Sarah nodded, keeping her senses alert for any sign of what they might find. Her professional experience had shown her that situations like this often involved other animals in danger. Abandoned puppies, injured animals, or those trapped in dangerous places. The dog finally stopped in front of a vacant lot, partially enclosed by a dilapidated barbed wire fence. It was a place that had clearly been abandoned for a long time. Weeds grew freely among old construction debris, and a sense of neglect hung in the air. She barked once, more softly, and looked directly at a specific area near some larger bushes. "It's over there," Sarah whispered, pointing in the direction the dog indicated. The two women approached carefully, mentally preparing for what they might find. The dog accompanied them, but kept a distance, as if wanting to give them space to discover for themselves what she had been trying to show for so long. It was Joanna who saw it first. Among the bushes, partially hidden under some dry leaves, was a plastic grocery bag. But this was no ordinary bag carelessly abandoned. It moved slightly, and small, almost imperceptible sounds came from inside. "Sarah," Joanna called, her voice thick with emotion. "There's something alive in here." The veterinarian quickly approached, already putting on the procedure gloves she always carried with her. With delicate and precise movements, she carefully opened the plastic bag. What they saw inside made both of them sigh deeply. 3 tiny puppies, clearly newborn, still with their eyes closed, shivering from cold and hunger inside the improbable cradle. The dog then approached, for the first time since early morning, showing urgency in her movements. She delicately sniffed the bag and began to gently lick the little ones, producing small whimpers of relief and maternal recognition. There was no doubt. Those were her puppies, and she had probably spent the entire night seeking help to save them. "My goodness," Sarah murmured. "She brought us here to save her babies." The dog looked at the two women with an expression that mixed gratitude, relief, and plea. Her eyes shone with tears that seemed to carry the full weight of maternal responsibility and the despair she had felt upon finding her puppies in danger and being unable to save them alone. Sarah immediately went into emergency veterinary mode. She quickly examined each puppy, checking vital signs and body temperature. The little ones were weakened by the cold night and lack of food, but still showed healthy reflexes and stable breathing. "They're alive and relatively well considering the circumstances," Sarah announced, easing the tension that had settled in the air. "But we need to get them to a warm place and make sure they eat as soon as possible." The dog remained close throughout the examination, observing the veterinarian's every move with intense attention. Occasionally, she gave delicate licks to the puppies, as if to reassure them and at the same time check if they were okay. Her body language had completely changed. Where before there was despair and agitation, now there was a cautious confidence that she had made the right decision in seeking help. "How did you manage to find the shelter?" Joanna asked softly, gently stroking the dog's head. "How did you know we could help?" Naturally, there was no answer in words, but the dog leaned her head into Joanna's hand for a brief moment, the first truly affectionate physical contact she had allowed since her mysterious appearance that morning. It was a small but deeply significant gesture, as if she had finally been given permission to lower her guard and accept human kindness. Sarah carefully organized the puppies in her veterinary bag, creating an improvised nest with a soft blanket she always carried for emergencies. The dog accompanied every movement with vigilant eyes, but showed no signs of excessive protection. She had clearly decided to trust these two women who had responded to her plea for help. The walk back to the shelter was completely different from the journey there. The dog now walked beside the two women, without the desperate urgency that had characterized her search for help. Occasionally, she approached the bag where her puppies were, delicately sniffing to make sure they were safe. "You know," Sarah said as they walked, "in all my years as a vet, I've never seen such a strong maternal instinct. Most animals in despair would simply look for a safe place for their puppies. She specifically came to seek human help." "It's as if she knew she couldn't care for them alone," Joanna agreed, observing the dog's remarkably calm behavior now that her mission had been accomplished. When they arrived at the shelter, Sarah immediately prepared an adequate space in the veterinary care room. She set up a large box with heated blankets, established a controlled heat source, and prepared specialized newborn puppy formula. Throughout the setup process, the dog remained seated nearby, observing each preparation intently. "Let's see if she agrees to stay with us here," Sarah said, delicately opening the door to the prepared area. The dog approached cautiously, sniffed the new environment and, apparently satisfied with the conditions, lay down beside the box where her puppies were already settled. For the first time since her appearance, she seemed truly to relax. Her shoulders dropped, her breathing became deeper and more regular, and she closed her eyes for a few seconds, the first moment of real rest she had allowed herself since discovering her puppies in danger. "She knows they're safe now," Sarah observed, admiring the devoted mother's intelligence and instinct. "But we'll need to monitor them closely over the next few hours to ensure they all recover completely." Mbai, what neither of them imagined was that this moment marked only the beginning of a journey that would not only change the lives of that canine family, but also deeply touch the heart of one of the women present, creating a connection that would last forever. The following hours were filled with careful observation and intensive care. Sarah remained at the shelter far beyond her usual hours, monitoring the puppy's vital signs and observing the mother's behavior. The dog, who had been affectionately named Hope by the staff, proved to be an exemplary mother, alternating between caring for her little ones and gradually accepting the help offered by the humans. "She's allowing us to help with the feeding," Sarah observed, impressed by the dog's adaptability. Many mothers in stressful situations completely reject human interference, but she understands that we are here to help. During the afternoon, other shelter staff and volunteers came to meet the special family. Each person who approached was met with a careful assessment by Hope. She had clearly developed the ability to distinguish between genuine intentions and simple curiosity. Dr. Robert, the shelter's head veterinarian, arrived for a more complete evaluation. He meticulously examined each puppy and was impressed by the family's overall health, considering the traumatic circumstances they had faced. "It's extraordinary," he commented, observing the interaction between mother and puppies. "She managed to keep the little ones warm and protected during an entire night out in the open, and still had the presence of mind to seek help. This is not common behavior." Sarah nodded, but she was already developing a special connection with that family. During her breaks, she would sit near the improvised enclosure, talking softly with Hope, who gradually began to respond with small tail wags and increasingly confident glances. "You know," Sarah said to Joanna during a coffee break, "my house has been very quiet since I retired. My last dog passed away 2 years ago, and I've been thinking about adopting again, but I've never found the right animal." "Are you thinking what I think you're thinking?" Joanna asked with a knowing smile. "Maybe," Sarah admitted, watching through the window as Hope delicately cared for her puppies. "But it would be a big responsibility. 4 dogs at once isn't exactly what I had planned." When she returned to the enclosure, something special happened. Hope lifted her head and observed her with a different expression, no longer the respectful caution she had shown until then, but something that seemed almost like recognition. She slowly got up, leaving the puppies sleeping, and approached Sarah. For the first time, she gently touched her nose to the veterinarian's hand and remained there for several seconds, as if expressing gratitude in a way that went beyond simple appreciation for medical care. It was as if she were choosing her special person. "I think she's already decided," Joanna whispered, who had observed the entire interaction. Sarah felt her heart touched. There was something in the way Hope looked at her, a connection she hadn't felt in a long time. It was as if that brave and determined dog could fill a void she didn't even know existed in her life. "Let's see how things evolve," Sarah said, but her voice carried an emotion that revealed her decision was practically made. "First, we need to ensure everyone is healthy and ready for a new life." What she didn't imagine was that Hope wasn't just looking for a home. She was about to become the most loyal and special companion Sarah could ever have imagined. A week passed since the rescue, and the shelter routine had completely adjusted to accommodate the special family. The puppies grew quickly, gaining weight and developing their individual personalities. Hope had transformed into a confident and relaxed mother, but her special connection with Sarah became more evident each day. "She literally follows you with her eyes all around the room," Joanna commented, observing how the dog accompanied Sarah's every movement. "And when you leave, she clearly gets anxious until your return." Sarah had started arriving earlier and staying later than necessary, always finding an excuse to check on the family's progress. But the truth was, she also felt a growing connection with that extraordinary dog who had shown so much courage and intelligence. During the daily examinations, Hope had developed a special ritual. She allowed Sarah to examine each puppy, but always positioned herself to maintain constant eye contact, as if it were a medical partnership. When Sarah finished, Hope would always gently touch her hand with her nose in a gesture that became her special way of saying, "Thank you." "You need to make a decision," Dr. Roberts said during a conversation on Friday. "We already have 3 families interested in adopting the puppies when they're ready, and 2 people interested in Hope. But it's obvious you 2 have developed something special." Sarah knew he was right. The connection between her and Hope had grown organically and naturally, as if they were destined to meet. But the responsibility of 4 dogs still intimidated her, especially considering her age and lifestyle. That weekend, Sarah made a decision that surprised even herself. She called the shelter and asked if she could take Hope and the puppies to her home temporarily, as a foster home, to help with their socialization and preparation for adoption. "Temporarily," she emphasized on the phone, though she knew she was trying to convince herself more than anyone else. Monday arrived with the excitement of a significant change. Sarah carefully prepared her home. She created a safe space in the living room, bought all the necessary supplies, and reorganized her routine to accommodate the needs of the canine family. When she arrived at the shelter to pick up her temporary guests, Hope seemed to immediately understand that something special was happening. She showed controlled excitement, wagging her tail more vigorously than usual, but keeping her attention focused on her puppies. The transport to Sarah's house was surprisingly smooth. Hope settled into the back seat of the car, allowing Sarah to place the box with the puppies beside her. Throughout the journey, she kept a protective paw on the edge of the box, but occasionally looked out the window with what appeared to be curiosity about her new destination. "Welcome to your temporary home," Sarah announced as she opened her front door. Hope entered cautiously, but without fear. She explored each room systematically, sniffing and mapping the new territory, always returning to check if her puppies were safe. It was obvious that she was applying the same intelligence and care she had shown when seeking help at the shelter. When Sarah set up the puppy's space in the living room, Hope supervised every detail, as if approving the accommodations. Only when she was satisfied with the safety of the environment did she finally allow herself to relax and lie down beside the box. That first night, as Sarah settled onto the couch to read, Hope did something completely unexpected. She rose from her post beside the puppies and lay on the floor near Sarah's feet, establishing a proximity that respected personal space, but clearly demonstrated her choice of companionship. The first few weeks at Sarah's house revealed fascinating aspects of Hope's personality. During the day, she was completely devoted to her puppies, but in the early mornings and evenings, she had established a special routine with her human hostess. Every morning, even before the alarm clock rang, Hope would appear by Sarah's bed with a silent greeting, just her presence and a gentle look that said, "Good morning," better than any words. She waited patiently for Sarah to get up, then accompanied her to the kitchen, where she sat politely while coffee was prepared. "You're more punctual than any clock," Sarah would comment during these morning rituals, always accompanied by a small wag of Hope's tail that showed she understood and appreciated these special moments together. The puppies grew quickly and began to explore the house, transforming Sarah's quiet routine into a constant symphony of small barks, scurrying, and play. Hope supervised everything with the patience of an experienced mother, intervening only when necessary to maintain order or ensure the safety of her little adventurers. It was during this phase that Sarah began to notice something extraordinary about Hope's emotional intelligence. The dog seemed to have developed an almost supernatural ability to perceive Sarah's moods and needs. When the retired veterinarian had difficult days or felt tired, Hope would adjust her behavior accordingly, keeping the puppies calmer and offering her silent companionship. "It's like she knows exactly what I need at any given moment," Sarah commented during a call to Joanna. "When I'm excited, she shares my energy. When I need peace, she creates a calm environment. I've never experienced such a connection with an animal." A Thursday afternoon brought a situation that would forever define their relationship. Sarah had spent the day dealing with retirement-related bureaucracy and was particularly stressed when she got home. She sat on the couch, feeling the weight of an intense headache that had developed during the day. Hope, who normally greeted Sarah at the door with controlled enthusiasm, immediately sensed that something was different. Instead of her usual ritual, she slowly approached and, for the first time since arriving at the house, gently placed her head in Sarah's lap. The gesture was so unexpected and touching that Sarah felt tears well up in her eyes. They weren't tears of sadness, but of a profound emotion upon realizing she had been truly seen and understood by that special being who had entered her life so dramatically. "Thank you," Sarah whispered, gently stroking Hope's soft ears. "You know, don't you? You know exactly what I'm feeling." Hope remained in that position for almost an hour, offering her warmth and presence as a natural balm for Sarah's stress. Occasionally, she would lift her eyes to check if her company was still welcome, but mostly she maintained a silent and comforting vigil. That night, Sarah made a decision she had been avoiding for weeks. She picked up the phone and called the shelter, but not to discuss adoption plans for other families. Instead, she wanted to talk about the necessary procedures to officially adopt Hope. "I knew this day would come," Dr. Robert replied with an audible smile in his voice. "You two were made for each other from the very first moment." "And the puppies?" Sarah asked, looking at the three little ones sleeping peacefully in their box. "We'll talk about that," he replied. "But first, let's make official what's already obvious to all of us. Hope has found her forever home." That night, for the first time since arriving at her house, Hope slept in Sarah's bedroom, in an improvised bed beside the human bed, officially marking the beginning of a partnership that would last forever. The decision to formalize Hope's adoption brought a subtle but significant change in the house's dynamic. It was as if the dog understood that she was no longer a temporary guest, but truly at home. Her confidence grew, as did her willingness to show affection in increasingly touching ways. Sarah began to notice small gestures that revealed the depth of Hope's gratitude and connection. In the morning, she had developed the habit of delicately bringing Sarah's slipper, not as a toy, but as a gift, a ritual that said, "Thank you for letting me into your life." When Sarah worked in her home office, Hope would lie near the chair, not intrusively, but offering her presence as a silent and comforting companion. "She has a unique way of showing love," Sarah observed during a visit from Joanna. "It's not just loyalty or gratitude, it's as if she deliberately chose to love me, like a conscious decision." The puppies, now 6 weeks old, had become distinct little personalities. There was the adventurous one, always exploring new corners of the house, the cautious one who observed everything before venturing out, and the affectionate one who constantly sought human contact. Hope continued to be an attentive mother, but Sarah could sense that she was gradually preparing them for independence. It was during this period that an incident occurred that would demonstrate Hope's true protective nature towards Sarah. One afternoon, while Sarah was working in the garden, she slipped on a wet stone and fell, twisting her ankle. Before she could even get up or call for help, Hope appeared by her side, not with panic, but with a calm and focused determination. The dog first carefully checked if Sarah was conscious and responsive, delicately touching her hand with her nose. Then, she positioned herself so that Sarah could lean on her to get up, offering her strength as physical support. Throughout the process of Sarah limping to the house, Hope remained exactly by her side, adjusting her pace to match her human companion's slower rhythm. "It's incredible," Sarah thought, impressed by Hope's instinctive and intelligent response. "She not only helped me physically, but remained calm and thought of practical solutions." That night, as Sarah rested on the couch with her ankle elevated, Hope established a voluntary vigil. She lay on the floor near the couch, but in a way that allowed her to observe both Sarah and the puppies. Occasionally, she would lift her head to check if Sarah was comfortable, as if she had taken on the role of a dedicated nurse. Over the next few days, as Sarah recovered, Hope demonstrated impressive adaptability. She automatically took on more household responsibilities in her own canine way, alerting when someone approached the door, checking all areas of the house before settling down for the night, and even guiding the puppies away from Sarah during periods when she needed to rest. "She's become my true partner," Sarah reflected, observing how Hope efficiently coordinated the care of the puppies while keeping a protective eye on her. "She's not just a pet, it's like we're a team." The experience further strengthened the bond between them, but it also led Sarah to an important realization about the puppies. Observing how Hope had balanced her maternal responsibilities with her care for Sarah, she began to seriously consider the possibility that she might keep more than one member of that special family. "What if," she thought one night, "this isn't just the story of a dog finding a home, but of an entire family finding where it belongs?" The following week brought special visitors, the families interested in adopting the puppies. Sarah had agreed to meet them at her house so that Hope could participate in the selection process, something she considered fundamental for the devoted mother's emotional well-being. The first family arrived one Saturday afternoon, a young couple with an 8-year-old daughter. They were interested in the most adventurous puppy, and Sarah carefully observed the interaction among everyone. Hope, surprisingly, seemed to assess the family with the same intelligence she had demonstrated in all other situations. She allowed them to approach the puppies, but maintained a watchful observation. What impressed Sarah most was how Hope reacted when the girl sat on the floor to gently play with the puppy. The dog approached the child and, after a moment of silent assessment, delicately placed a paw on the girl's leg, a gesture Sarah interpreted as maternal approval. "I think she's giving her blessing," Sarah whispered to herself, moved to witness that moment of trust and acceptance. The second family visited on Sunday, an elderly gentleman who had recently lost his canine companion and felt lonely at home. He was interested in the most affectionate puppy, the one who always sought human contact. Again, Hope conducted her own assessment, observing how the man interacted not only with the puppy, but also how he addressed her and Sarah. When the gentleman sat on the floor and the puppy naturally snuggled into his lap, beginning to doze peacefully, Hope approached and lay down near them. It was a touching image. A mother recognizing that her child had found someone who would offer the love and attention he needed. Sarah felt a mixture of joy and melancholy observing these interactions. It was evident that Hope understood what was happening and was, in her own way, actively participating in the process of finding the best homes for her puppies. The third interested family, however, presented an unexpected situation. They wanted the third puppy, the cautious little one, but their visit coincided with a moment when Sarah was deeply reflecting on her own connection with that small female who so reminded her of her mother in personality. While the family interacted with the puppy, Sarah noticed something that touched her deeply. The little one, who was naturally more reserved, kept returning to Sarah's side, as if she too had developed a special preference for that human who had opened her heart and home to her family. "Interesting," observed Hope, who had positioned herself between Sarah and the visiting family as if she were making her own assessment of the situation. That night, after all the visitors had left, Sarah sat on the couch to process the day's emotions. Hope approached and lay at her feet, while the 3 puppies played nearby. But the cautious little one soon tired of playing and came to settle beside Sarah, just as her mother did. "You know," Sarah said, talking to both Hope and herself, "maybe it's possible for 2 of them to stay here, mother and daughter together." Hope lifted her head and looked directly into Sarah's eyes with an expression that seemed to say, "I was waiting for you to come to that conclusion." It was as if she knew Sarah was ready to expand her heart and her family even further. That night, Sarah made a decision that surprised her by how naturally it formed in her mind. She would call the third family the next morning and explain that that puppy had also found her forever home, right there, with her mother and her new human family. Some families, she reflected, watching Hope and the little one sleeping side by side, are simply meant to be together. The months that followed transformed Sarah's house into a vibrant and full-of-life home. The little puppy, whom Sarah affectionately named Courage for the brave way she gradually overcame her cautious nature, developed a unique personality that perfectly complemented her mother's temperament. Hope had become not just a loyal companion, but a true life partner. She developed a routine that demonstrated her deep understanding of Sarah's rhythms and needs. On Tuesday and Thursday mornings, when Sarah visited the shelter as a volunteer, Hope would accompany her to the door, with Courage by her side, as if orchestrating a proper family farewell. Most impressively, Hope had taken on the role of mentor with Courage, teaching her not only basic canine behaviors, but also the nuances of how to live harmoniously with Sarah. When Courage was too energetic during times Sarah needed to concentrate, Hope would delicately redirect the puppy's attention to more appropriate activities. "It's like having a 4-legged personal assistant," Sarah would joke with friends, but there was a profound truth in her words. Hope had become so attuned to Sarah's routine that she often anticipated needs before they were even expressed. During a visit from Dr. Robert for a routine checkup, he observed the dynamic between the three with admiration. "In all my years as a veterinarian," he commented, "I've rarely seen such a natural and harmonious integration between humans and animals. You three have become a genuine family." The observation was particularly touching for Sarah, who had spent the last years of her retirement feeling that something was missing from her life. Now, her home was filled with purpose, love, and a connection she had never imagined possible. One autumn afternoon brought a situation that would once again demonstrate Hope's exceptional nature. Sarah had caught a bad flu and was confined to bed, feeling miserable and weak. Hope, realizing something was wrong, established a dedicated vigil in the bedroom. She positioned herself near Sarah's bed, but also took on the responsibility of caring for Courage, keeping the young dog quiet and entertained away from the room during periods when Sarah most needed to rest. When Sarah woke up, Hope was always there, offering her comforting presence. The most surprising thing happened on the third day of the illness. Sarah had forgotten to take her medicine at the usual time due to fever and confusion. Hope, who had observed the medication routine over the previous days, began to give small, soft barks near the nightstand where the medicine was, persisting until Sarah understood what she was trying to communicate. "You're reminding me to take my medicine," Sarah said, impressed. "How did you know it was important?" Sarah's recovery was closely monitored by her two companions, and when she finally felt well enough to resume her normal activities, she was met with a silent but touching celebration, Courage bouncing with joy, and Hope with a special gleam in her eyes that conveyed relief and happiness. "You two took better care of me than any nurse," Sarah said, caressing both of them. "How did I live all these years without you?" That night, as they settled down to sleep, Sarah in her bed, Hope in her special bed beside it, and Courage on a nearby cushion, Sarah reflected on how her life had changed since that morning when a desperate dog had appeared at the shelter door. What had begun as an act of compassion had transformed into the richest and most rewarding experience of her life. She had gained not just pets, but true life partners who daily demonstrated the deepest meanings of loyalty, unconditional love, and family. A year after that transformative day at the shelter, Sarah was in her garden watching Hope and Courage play under the golden afternoon sun. The transformation in all of them had been extraordinary. Hope, who had arrived as a desperate mother seeking help, had become a serene and wise companion, radiating the confidence of one who had found her place in the world. Courage had grown and become a young dog full of life, but with the emotional intelligence inherited from her mother. Sarah had also changed profoundly. Her retirement, which previously seemed an empty period between active work and aging, had transformed into a vibrant phase full of purpose and joy. The two dogs not only filled her home with life, they had rekindled a passion for life that she hadn't known she had lost. "You know," Sarah said, sitting on the grass beside her companions, "I always thought I was saving you that day, but now I realize that you saved me." Hope approached and delicately placed her head in Sarah's lap, a gesture that had become her special way of saying, "I understand, and I love you too." Courage, not wanting to be left out of the affectionate moment, squeezed in on the other side, creating a cuddle sandwich that made Sarah laugh with pure happiness. The journey had brought profound lessons about trust, unconditional love, and the extraordinary ability of animals to perceive and respond to human emotional needs. Hope had demonstrated that gratitude goes far beyond simple loyalty. It can transform into a genuine partnership based on mutual understanding and true affection. In those moments of reflection, Sarah often thought of the two puppies who had found their own loving homes. She received regular updates from the families who adopted them and knew that they were thriving in their new lives. The adventurous little one had become the perfect companion for the 8-year-old girl, and the affectionate one had brought new joy to the elderly gentleman's life. Each one found exactly where they were meant to be, Sarah reflected, as if the universe had a plan for all of us from the start. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with golden and rosy hues, Sarah got up to prepare dinner. As always, hope and courage accompanied her to the kitchen, not out of dependence, but by choice, because they had learned that the best moments in life are those shared with loved ones. While preparing the meal, Sarah reflected on how that story had changed, not only her perspective on companion animals, but on the very nature of love and family. She had learned that sometimes the best things in life arrive when we least expect them, disguised as challenges that may initially seem impossible to face. "Life has a funny way of giving us exactly what we need," she whispered, observing her two companions who had peacefully settled near her feet. "Even when we don't know we need it." That night, as on all others since they became a family, they settled down together, not as owner and pets, but as companions who had chosen to share their lives and create something beautiful and lasting together. Hope's story had begun with a desperate mother seeking help for her puppies, but it had transformed into something much greater. A powerful demonstration of how love, compassion, and openness to unexpected connections can transform lives in ways we could never imagine. And if you've stayed with us through this emotional journey, leave a comment telling us which part of the story touched your heart the most. Share with us if you also have a special story with an animal that changed your life. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because we always have more inspiring stories about the unconditional love between humans and animals. Until the next story, and remember, sometimes our greatest heroes arrive on four paws when we least expect it, but exactly when we need them most.